All right, we're going to do a test here. I got my MKE 200 on top of the Fuji. The first time I've used this shotgun mic. It's probably not as good as my Ceramonic, but it's tiny. And I'm going to give it a trial run because I'm going to be on the road so much, and a mic that's a third the size of my Ceramonic might work well. By the way, I love this lens too. Fuji 33-1.4. I can't get the lens cap to stay on. I just recorded this film a minute ago on another device, and I was not happy with the way it looked. By the way, the house is a disaster. Getting ready to depart a little bit. So, where are we? I got a Q&A here. I got one person with one opinion. That's all. Let me see what this... Okay then, all is well. One person with one opinion. That's all this is. I got 10 questions. I think this is a good Q&A, and I am on a clock because my wife's going to come through that door in 30 minutes because she has to cook, and then I got to turn on the grill, and I got to cook for some people. And it's like a typhoon outside, and it's raining, and there's high wind, and there's nothing better than grilling in a typhoon. Question number 1, does a 1.4 teleconverter degrade the image? Great question. Let's start with, does everyone know what a teleconverter is? A teleconverter is a little device that goes between your lens and the camera body that magnifies the focal length of a lens, either 1.4 times or 2x times. Historically, yes. These devices were crafted by Satan in a workshop filled with child labor. They were horrible devices that not only softened the image, they degraded things to comical levels. But as we've gotten further into the whole photography thing, the camera thing, they've gotten much better. I spent the last 2 years with a Fuji 2x converter on a 50-140 zoom lens, and typically the combination of a 2x converter and a zoom lens would send every photographer straight to rehab. Horrible situation. I can say though, with certainty, the Fuji 2x converter was the best converter I'd ever had, by far. Historically, you wouldn't never buy a 2x converter because they were so bad. The 1.4s were the only passable things. My 200mm Fuji lens now has a 1.4 on it permanently, and that is an unbelievable converter as well. I don't see any image loss, any degradation with using either one of those converters. So they're both really good, but remember, if you're gonna buy a cheap teleconverter or an aftermarket teleconverter, you're probably gonna suffer the consequences, my friends, but that's okay. Whatever happens to your work, just claim that that's what you wanted to do. I just shared with you the most important secret in all of professional photography. It doesn't matter how bad it sucks. If you own it and you claim that that's what you intended to do, you can be an art star and literally act like an ass and make tons of money. You can go into any museum in America and see photographers who do this. Some days my style, dark and out of focus. The next day, my style, hot and flary. 2 stops hot, blown highlights. Yeah, that's my style. I meant to do that. I did that on purpose. That's because I'm exploring the outer fringe of white as a color, or is it a color or not a color? And that's really what my life is about. That's it. I just gave you the secret. Question number 2. I have a question for your Q&A, and it goes like this. There's a disconnect between the camera Is there a disconnect between the camera manufacturers and the photographers? Gee. Wouldn't be the first time. Someone made a Merkur XR4 Ti and sold that in America. Talk about a disconnect. How about the Chevy Nova, which in Spanish, Nova means no go. That was their big push to sell in Mexico. Didn't work. There's a disconnect. I'll tell you right now. I don't even have to read the rest of your question. Let's be honest, how much a photographer really earns compared to how much cameras cost these days? It seems the brands and photographers are disconnected. Has it always been like that? Whoa, 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 whoa. Back up. Stop. Legitimate photographers make plenty of money to buy gear. And in fact, the vast majority of photographers who are commercial, advertising, automotive, whatever, a significant percentage of those photographers, especially if they live in a larger market like Los Angeles, they're gonna rent all of their equipment job by job by job. They don't own equipment. There's no reason to buy digital cameras if you're a professional working in a city like Los Angeles, because why would you buy something that's obsolete in 18 months? And why would you buy something if your ROI isn't high enough to pay for your camera in less than 6 months? Then you're making a bad financial decision, because these cameras are throwaway, all of them. So everybody rents everything all the time. but legitimate working professional photographers, for the most part, are going to not have to worry about the price of equipment unless you're buying a $40,000 digital back or something. They make plenty of money. I know photographers who made 7 figures on a single shoot. Yes, it was a complex shoot that dealt with a very significant historical popular film series, a motion picture series that's sort of a sci-fi fantasy thing. They're world-renowned films. He was the still guy for all of it. For the advertising, camera companies were manufacturing cameras they'd never made before for him. They were building rigs to hold 50 cameras at a time and shoot all these different complex things. That guy cleared a lot of money. I know fashion people that clear a lot of money. I know commercial and advertising people that clear a ton of money. It's the online people who are posing as photographers that you might think, well, those are photographers. They're not. They're online photographers, which, again, not a knock. It's a separate skill. Being a YouTuber is a skill. It's very different from being a professional photographer, and there's not a lot of crossover there. So the people who are YouTubing or scraping by that are complaining about camera prices, that's one thing. But most pros, it's not to say that all professional photographers are rolling in money. They're not. In fact, it's hard times for a ton of people. But the cost of equipment, which the client's going to pay for it anyway. So if you're in, for example, again, if you're in New York or LA or Miami or wherever, you just rent the gear. And then when it wears out or breaks or it's obsolete in 6 months, you rent the latest stuff. Okay then. And yes, it's always been that way. Question number 3, why did you get a new GoPro? Well, the vlog that I'm creating right now, which is a masterpiece, will explain it to you. But the simple explanation is that I could not shoot enough B-roll on my own. And we're going to get to this in a minute with this myth of the hybrid shooter thing. But I could not shoot enough B-roll on my own because I'm shooting stills and like doing interviews for Blurb. And they're kind of for Blurb. I'm trying to get Blurb to see if they want to use them. But they're primarily for me. I have 2 interview films that are going to launch. They're done. They're actually uploaded on the site, just waiting to go. One of them, I'm waiting for the photographer I interviewed to give me the go-ahead. And the second one is Blurb, I think, wants a version of it, but I'm probably going to have to redo it to fit whatever parameters that Blurb wants, which I totally get. They're a brand. They have different parameters than I do as an individual. And I wouldn't say that film was particularly well done. I think what comes out of the photographer's mouth is relevant and good, but like the way I had to film that in my hotel room in New York and then try to shoot B-roll in Times Square was kind of a nightmare. But the GoPro is with me all the time. And I can shoot in this new 8:7 format, which is croppable. So I can shoot and in that format, and then Blurb can crop it into a 1080 landscape or a 9:16 for mobile. So that saves a little bit. And with this Sennheiser mic on there, the audio is pretty good. And the quality of the camera is pretty darn good. Obviously, it's wide lenses. You're not going to get fall off, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I just need to be able to create more B-roll because as an individual with such limited time, I just needed something to collect more data. It's as simple as that. And it's a GoPro Hero 11 Black with a creator kit and a Sennheiser MKE 200 shotgun mic, which I knew about before and I almost bought before I bought my Ceramonic, but I needed this for all the travel I have coming up. Number 4, what's a Blurb trade book? Damn good question, even if I say so my damn self. Blurb trade books are the single most strategic product that Blurb makes. Blurb is known, and historically we started making photo books and art books way back in the day. We still make those. And they're beautiful, but they're expensive. And trade books are a different product. We make trade books, magazines, photo books. They're all different. One is not better than the other. They're just different items for different audiences at different price points. Trade books are the most strategic thing we make. I love them. I make 10 trade books for every photo book or magazine. They look great. They're a fraction of the cost. They're not better than photo books. Let me repeat this because I know somebody out there, I've had this question literally 10,000 times. This is not a better, greater than, or lesser than. It is simply a different product. It has different paper, it has different cover types, it's in different trim sizes, and it costs very different than the photo books. And so, to me, they are the most strategic thing we make. It's the reason why AG23 was printed in trade book format. It's a non-precious object, they're affordable, etc., etc. So it's something worth investigating. There's 6, 7 paper types depending on which particular trade book you go after. If you have illustrated content, the paper that you're going to want to look at is standard color paper, which is what I use for AG. However, As you go down in the paper grades and you get to the economy papers, especially in the economy black and white, there's two versions, a neutral white base and a 60-pound cream base, which is my second favorite Blurb paper of all time. I love this paper. It was not built for photography. You have to prep your files the right way. But if you do, it looks incredible, and you can do a book for less than $3. You'll pay way more to ship it than you will to buy the book. I love this thing, but here's the punch in the face that you guys need again and again and again. And you do, and there's a little tough love there, but I'm saying this because I've seen the behavior over and over and over again. Whoever you use, whether you're using Blurb or MagCloud or Artifact or whoever, Mixum, anybody whose company you want to use, you have a responsibility to make a test book. You have to test these papers. I can tell you to use economy black and white, and I can tell you have to prep your files in a certain way. But until you've done it, you'll never know. You have to do the testing. If you're not printing your work, this is going to be hard. Get ready. You might want to sit down. If you've got a non-alcoholic beer, you might want to open that. If you're not printing, you're not coming full circle. To me, you're kind of a poser. I know that sounds harsh, but I feel that way. Print scares posers to death because print, within 10 seconds of somebody who knows what they're doing looks at your work, when you see it in print, you either have it or you don't, and they will see it in 10 seconds. You have to pay for everything involved in print. You got to pay for the object. You got to pay per page. You got to pay for the cover type. You got to pay for the shipping. It's slow. It's tedious. It shows off. Do you have page design skills? Do you have editing skills? Do you have sequencing skills? This is the master class, and most photographers, not most, some photographers are terrified of this. Many, I won't say most, I'll say many of the online crowd are really terrified because they've never done it. They're so used to capturing something and immediately just diarrea de la boca out onto the market in every single digital outlet, Instagram and TikTok and whatever. That's what they consider successful. That's, how do I put this politely? Or should I even put it politely? Ultimately, even if that leads to getting jobs, commercial success, in my mind, it's useless. Because you could have gotten the jobs. If you were a good photographer, you get jobs other way without having to do that. And then two, it's just lost in the ether the second it goes out there. Print scares people to death because you need a range of skills to do it well. And most of us don't have all those skills. It's a reason why when I have something serious to do when I'm printing, I hire a designer. I work with full-time publication designers because they are so much better than I will ever be. And I don't have those chops. I don't have that skill. So I gotta partner with someone else. I make my own books all the time. But am I gonna put them in front of you and say, hey, look at how great a designer I am? No, I'm just gonna tell you how great a human being I am. And you're gonna be like, damn, that's so obvious. It's because I like prune candy. Just kidding. Sprouted organic pumpkin seeds. Do not eat too many of these at one time because your intestines will go from DEFCON 1 to DEFCON 5 in approximately 30 seconds. Question number 5, what's the most exotic bird you've seen in your yard? The most exotic bird is probably not that exotic to you, but it is to me. Most of the birds in my yard, and by the way, we had a blizzard 4 days ago. So Santa Fe is part of the United States, number one. Number two, we have mountains here. There's a 12,000, almost 13,000 foot peak I can see from the house. And three, we're at 7,000 feet. So it snows. We have a winter. Yes, we do. For those of you Texans out here coming in your fringe jackets and your giant hats and your boots and you're draped in turquoise, pack a jacket, because it does get nippy here in the winter. So birding has not been super strong here because we're still in blizzard conditions. However, things are starting to creep up. The hummingbirds have arrived. They're coming in. And when I wear my orange hat, the hummingbirds just dive bomb me the entire time I'm out in the on the patio. And I feel bad because I'm like, I wish you could attack my hat if it was some benefit to you. But they come down and they're just aggravated. They're like, idiot human. You know, there's no payoff there. Hummingbirds are here. The bird that I saw that really turned me on was the red-naped sapsucker, which is a medium-sized woodpecker. It's actually pretty big. It's a woodpecker. I love woodpeckers. Its design is gorgeous. Giant red head on this thing is gorgeous. However, to put it in perspective, last year in Maine, I was sitting on someone's deck in a backyard, and there was just the Maine woods out in front of me. Just this most insane, super deep, dark, dense trees dropped, crisscrossed all over. And I heard what I thought was either a man or a black bear coming at me through the forest on the ground. There was that much noise and like stuff moving around. And I was like waiting, and I thought, okay, if it's a dude, I might have to Jack Johnson or Muhammad Ali this guy. Or if it's a black bear, I need an escape plan because it's coming. But the noise kept coming, but whatever it was didn't emerge from the forest. And then I was like, I looked up, and it was a pileated woodpecker, which had to be like this big. And it was just hammering some dead tree. And I was stunned. I didn't even know what a pileated woodpecker was. It looked like a dinosaur. It is a dinosaur, but it looked like a pterodactyl on the top of this tree, and then it was gone. And if you haven't heard the call of a pileated woodpecker, just think Tarzan. It's incredible what this thing sounds like. So red-naped sapsucker is like the cousin of that bird. And I was pretty stoked to see it. And I actually got a photograph of it, which I think I showed on this channel at some point. Because I'm kind of a bird photography expert. I hit the shutter, I make magic. What can I say? You losers are all playing catch up. Question number 6, is the Lebanon Workshop still on for the spring of 2024? Yes, my teaching instructor is on her way over there right now, scouting. Spring of 2024, Lebanon. I have always wanted to go here. I've wanted to go to that region forever. I've never been. Little side story. When I was an intern at the Arizona Republic in Phoenix, that was my first big internship. That was supposed to stay for 3 months, and I stayed for a year and a half. I just wouldn't leave, and they couldn't hire me because I wasn't the right demographic, but they didn't want me to leave. So I had this weird, unofficial staff member, but I had none of the benefits. It was a total scam, total sham on their part to get me to stay, which I did because I didn't have anywhere else to go, and they were paying me, and I liked it. So somebody reaches out from DC and says, dude, there's a fellowship to the Middle East, and you're going to go to 5 countries. It was Lebanon, the UAE, you're going to be in Saudi, you're going to be in Jordan, and you're going to be somewhere else. And you're going to work as a press photographer in all 5 of these countries. And the guy who reached out to me had already received the fellowship and done it in the past. And he said, look, they don't get that many applications, and I'm going to put your name in, and I'm going to suggest you to them, and your work, you're going to win this thing. But to do it, I had to write 2 essays, and then I had to reach out and ask for other people to write essays on my behalf. And the people that I had to reach out to were like the most high-profile people I knew in the world. One was like a super bigwig billionaire business guy that you guys would all know, and he wrote an essay. I had to really pull some favors here to get this. And so my friend's like, dude, it's a slam dunk. You're going to get it. And all I'm thinking is I'm going to be a press photographer in Beirut. This is like heaven for me. And then silence. And quite a while goes by, and I reach out to my friend. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And all he says is, if you don't get it, it has nothing to do with your work. And I was like, oh, crap. Crap, for crap's sake, man. What happened? He goes, well, let's just say it was slated for a different demographic from day one, but they couldn't legally tell anybody. So the schmucks like me, who went through the whole procedure of writing the essays and calling in favors and doing the paperwork, we never had a shot. It went to a female photographer, which I totally get. I get why sending a female photographer to those regions in particular is a really interesting angle, but Jesus, it would have been nice to know to save me from all of this stuff. So I didn't get it. So I've never been to Beirut. I've never been to Lebanon. I've never been to Jordan. I want to see this region. I think photographically, I'm going to fall in love there. And I also think I may just want to fall in love and move there. Why not? Number 7, what's the best lens choice for dock work? I would say the Soligar 500 f11 is what I would get. I would get that. You want a lens that's primarily made of plastic because it's so much lighter. And who needs f1.4 when you have f11? Everything's in focus. See how handy I am? Basically, it depends. But I think what you're getting at is if you're wandering around on the street, you're traveling, you're shooting your hometown, whatever it is, you're going to the mall, you're going to the enclosed retail unit. We are from Remulac. Somewhere between a 28, a 35, and a 50. I think the higher you go on the focal length, the greater technique and skill you must have. It's harder to use a 50 than a 28. So if you're breaking in, if this is new, if you've never been on a bull on steroids and they're locking you into the chute, right? And you got your glove on like this, and it's between your legs. It's like this, and you're about like this, and you've never done this before, and you're like Bud in Urban Cowboy. Start with a 28, because if you're like this and you with a 50, you're gonna die. You're gonna get trampled and die. The clown ain't gonna save you. 28, 35, 50 would be the place I would start. I use a 50 because I'm so good. Oh, this is a good one. Someone asked me, just casually threw this into a conversation. Hybrid photographer. This is the world we live in now. And F you to the newspaper world for convincing people this was possible. You could have been a newspaper photographer for 30 years, won the Pulitzer 5 times, you're a superstar, you're a banner human being, and then one day your moronic boss comes to you because he read some stupid news article and said, hey, you've killed it for us as a still photographer for 30 years and won Pulitzers and, put our newspaper on the map. Hey, we're going to give you a video camera now. And so just keep doing your still thing. And then just shoot video too. And then, oh, by the way, we're gonna need you to record sound. And then go ahead and write some scripts because we're too cheap to send a reporter. So now we kind of want you to do 4 things before you're doing 1. And you did it really well. And you, again, the community loves you. The community trusts you. You're a known commodity. You've put the paper on the map. We've got ad revenue out the wazoo. And now we want you to do 4 things. There is no such thing as a hybrid shooter. A good hybrid shooter. Everybody, myself included, is now doing all of these things at the same time. Motion, stills, sound, script, editing, producing. All one person. That is incredibly unfair. Why do you think so many YouTubers who are super successful YouTubers, again, they do it really well, they're successful, they're making money, who are, quote, photographers, they have cinematic footage on their films, and then it's them on camera, and it's color graded perfectly, looks good, and their still photography sucks. And they don't write scripts. It's just them on camera. And they may have like a kind of a pseudo script running in the background, but it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You probably wouldn't even have to note it, script it out. You would just be able to pull it off the top of your head. Because nobody is good enough to do 5 things or 6 things at the same time and produce 5-star content. It just doesn't happen. You get people who can do 2 things really well, and then it tapers off. You see guys who shoot great stills and then all their motion is in slow motion because they don't want to use a gimbal, they don't want to use a tripod, they're just trying to grab random B-roll, it's all slow motion, they have no script, it's just music. It is so unfair to task any creative with all of those things at the same time. It is the reason why 99% of what we see is content. And then 1% amazing, well-produced something, whether it's photography or it's motion or it's great writing or it's great sound. It is so rare that it all comes together with one person at the helm. I saw a former newspaper photographer that I actually know really well. I used to work, he was at the competing paper, but we worked out of the same darkroom. Very skilled guy with a camera, still camera. He did a movie like a year or so ago. And I was like impressed because the movie was good and it was an informational movie about the environment and I thought and the sound was good and I was like, wow, okay, so I knew him as a still guy. And now he's a hybrid guy. He's doing everything all by himself. And he did go out on this entire trip by himself. So he was doing all 4 of these things or 5 of these things. There was no script. It was just the voices of the people he was filming. So there was no writing involved on his part. The sound was good. The motion was pretty good. I would say the motion was B-level. And I don't remember a single still photograph from the entire thing. There just were no stills. And this guy, of all things in the world, what he's better at than 99.9% of the photographers walking the earth, what he's better at is still photography. And yet what was completely absent from this entire project was still photography. Now, would I ever go back and watch that movie again? No. Was the movie shot in a way that was like absolutely etched memorably in my mind because of style and content? No. It was like vanilla right down. It was in focus. Look, that's hard enough. It's in focus. The sound was good. It was color graded well. wasn't great message. Like, I learned a lot from the film, but it wasn't, his skill in being able to create unique work was completely lost. And if that guy can't do it, you and I have no hope whatsoever. So I think it's really unfair. We have to get away from this. I think still photography on itself can easily live on its own. I think still photography in a lot of ways is far more powerful than motion, but it is a hell of a lot harder to do still photography. Time and access. Time and access. What does nobody want to pay for? Time and access. Everything is fast. We just want cell phone footage. Just shoot 9:16 and boom, it's up and down because we have 40 campaigns going at one time. It doesn't bode well. I don't know if you can work as a photographer in that way and make good still photographs. That's the point we're at. Alrighty then. On that positive, happy note, I had my blood drawn today. Guy looked at my veins and he was like, I won't miss that one. I was like, you better put your blast shield on because when you pop that vein, I'm kind of vascular. My mother is like unbelievably vascular. My mom's arms are just veins up and down. And she parties, my mom. How often are you shooting? Not very often. Let me put it this way. I shoot all the time. I have a camera in my hand. I was in New York. I did 2 days of shooting, both motion and stills. Not very good, frankly. And I did interviews and I did a zillion other things. But just because I have a camera in my hand does not mean I'm making anything good. So in the next 3 weeks, I will be in 10 different cities. I will not be in one city longer than 3 days. Some of these towns I'll be in 1 day. And in every town, I'm either doing an interview, a photo walk, a lecture, a software demo, a film, a doc, or something. All 10 of these, I will have responsibilities to produce, I hate to say the word, but it's true, content. I ain't going to be making photography on these trips. I'm not going to make, Godfather 6 or even Lone Wolf McQuaid II, which I'm hoping they get in before Chucky dies because I want to see him in El Paso duking it out with the drug lords. How cool would that be? Lone Wolf McQuaid II. We can't use the old Ram Charger with the supercharger on it because they don't make the Ram Charger anymore. So maybe we put old Chucky in a hybrid. Let's put him in like a hybrid with a Greenpeace sticker. And the second he crosses the border, the cartels are just like, light him up, movie's over. Turns out to be a short. I don't know, could happen. How often are you shooting? I don't really shoot seriously that much. Again, next 3 weeks, I'm in 10 different cities, and I will just it's a fire drill. It's literally a fire drill, which is one reason why I got the GoPro. I can just jump out of the van and just 5.3K just around like this, and I will have usable footage of something. I don't think I will ever get the time to do kind of what I would call 5-star still photography anymore because I'm not good enough to just turn it on. I have to get into what I call photo fitness. Fitness photography is like running or cycling or paddling or whatever. You have to stay in shape, and I'm not in shape at all. New York last week, perfect example. I just felt like I'd never done this before. So I've got to be in shape, and I need practice in the field, and then once I'm in shape, I need about 2, 3, 4 weeks of just nothing else. No email, no texting, no assignments, no blog posts, no nothing. And when is that ever going to happen again in the rest of my life? Either I go to prison, and I have plenty of time, limited access to subject matter and cameras probably, but 3 squares a day, companionship, might not be that bad. Or I continue in the workforce until I die, which is more likely to happen, and I don't think I'll have that time again. So not so much. Last question, number 10, are you shooting any film? No, but I looked for a negative this morning that I've misplaced. Someone wants a huge print of a 6x6 negative, black and white, one of the better 6.6 images I've made, and they want to make this massive wall-size print, which I would love for them to make. And I've got decent scans of that, but to make a print that size, I probably need somebody to photocopy with like a DSLR, and I have a friend here in town who does that, so I just need to find the negative. And going back through archives and boxes and negatives and all this, I cannot believe how much 4x5 I shot. I forgot. I completely forgot. I shot 4x5 for 15 years. And for example, I have a friend. We write letters back and forth. We don't text. We don't phone call. We only communicate via letters. And we've been this way for 20-something years. I have big boxes of his correspondence. He's an artist and he sends me the most beautiful things. I have an entire archive of him on 4x5. Tri-X and Portra 4x5 of him working, of him in the studio, of him hanging work on the wall, of him posing in front of the work on the wall, of him just portraiture. I forgot about it. I shot all this stuff in the California desert, and it's people-based. It's not landscape. People. I drove out on my motorcycle in the middle of nowhere, found people, set up a 4x5, did these portraits. I have tons. I shot stock with 4x5. Totally forgot it all. I also did panoramics. Totally forgot about it. I was going back through boxes of negatives. I forgot about entire stories that I did. And it's kind of cool. But logistically, film does not work. As I mentioned before, the next 3 weeks, 10 different cities, on the hook in every city to do something, to tell some sort of story, whether it's stills or motion or an interview or a photo walk or a software demo or a lecture or whatever, a combination of all these. That means I have such limited time. I'm shooting wherever I'm at. I'm downloading, archiving, backing it up, delivering that stuff. I just can't do it with film. 5 years ago, Blurb would have waited. You know, when I did these long trips where I would go to Europe, go to Australia, I had a roller bag that had a digital camera in it. It had a Polaroid camera. It had a Hasselblad. It had a Leica system. And I would shoot tons of film. And Blurb would wait. And I would fly home with it. It would ship to the lab in LA. They would scan it. They would FTP the high-res scans back to me. I would start to do the edit. Blurb would wait. That's all gone. It's gone. It's gone. Gone. It's in the ether. It's not happening anymore. Now it's like, use your cell phone. Play along. It doesn't quite look like a cell phone, but imagine this is a cell phone. Just shoot 916. Send it off, and everybody's happy. So I don't think film is going to come back for me anytime soon, but I have a huge archive of film and a huge stockpile of stuff in there from 4.5 to the 6.6, 6.7, you know, the 120, 220s, 35s. I've got tons of what you would call expected films, the Tri-X's and the Portras, and then I've got a ton of really weird after-brand Eastern European films, and I just can't imagine when I'm going to have time to shoot that anytime soon. So that's our Q&A. Well, I'm one person with one opinion, and I have challenges with lens caps for some reason. Oh, you know why? This is my Viltrox lens cap on a Fuji lens, and the Viltrox cap only spins like a 1/16 of an inch. The lens is amazing. The lens cap, not so much Viltrox. Doesn't Viltrox sound like a Bond villain? Guy with a mustache and a suit and a black Doberman? It could be Viltrox. Anyway, I gotta go.